Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-Minute Histories videos. And today I'm on the corner of Charles and Reed Streets, just a few blocks north of the Washington Monument in the Mount Vernon neighborhood. And behind me is a building that for many years was known as McGillivray's Pharmacy, and for the last 20 years has been known as Spirits of Mount Vernon, a fabulous wine shop that has helped this community revitalize one bottle at a time. There is a marvelous story of how this building went from a pharmacy to a wine shop in a building that's owned by the neighborhood, basically. And I'm thrilled that I'm going to be joined by Charlie Duff of Jubilee, Baltimore, to help tell that story. And I'm equally thrilled that at the end of the video, we're going to be joined by Vicky Schassler, who owns Spirits of Mount Vernon and has acted as more or less the communication hub of the neighborhood for the last 20 years, and very shortly is going to pass the torch to a new generation. But before I turn it over, let me just say a word or two about the building itself. It was built right after the end of the Civil War, around 1868 or so, as a private residence. A few years later, a young man named Frank Brown purchased it. He had been in the tobacco business, then elected to the House of Delegates, the Baltimore postmaster, and then he got elected governor of Maryland. He lived here for a while. During that time, he did a couple of things. One is he successfully ended a strike, a coal miner strike in Frostburg peacefully, and he signed legislation into law that outlawed child labor. A few of his legacies there. He lived here for a while, and then he became a real estate developer. He turned it into apartments, naming it the clever name, The Governor, and that's when the first floor became a commercial space. By about 1879 or so, and for the next 100 years, it operated as a pharmacy under a number of names. By 1907, it had gotten the name The Governor Pharmacy, clearly for the building that was in. And it didn't get its name McGillivray's until 1925. That's when 3 pharmacists who had been renting space pooled their resources and bought the business and the building above it, naming it McGillivray's. The funny thing is, none of them were named McGillivray's, and our research came to a screeching halt and a dead end to try to figure out why they chose that name. Maybe you know. If you do, would love to find out. If you don't, it might remain a mystery a little longer. But McGillivray's it was, and McGillivray's had a front row seat to American history for much of the 20th century. In the years before the Great Depression, the go-go years, it was selling 24-karat Gillette razors. During World War II, it couldn't even find razors due to government rationing, nor could it find ice cream or alarm clocks or even, for a while, sliced bread. During the 1960s, it had a front row seat as the teenage years changed and teenagers came in to buy this new thing of hairspray. Through it all, its proprietor, a gentleman named Hyman Davidoff, was committed to being a central part of the neighborhood. He made a point, among other things, to stay open late till 11 o'clock at night to serve his customers in the community. The building was a McGillivray's Pharmacy up until about 1970, when a Baltimore family called the Rombros purchased it. They continued it as a pharmacy, but their real business was direct sales of pharmaceuticals to prisons and to nursing homes and to other institutions that offered health care. By the 1990s, it had stopped being a pharmacy and was really a liquor store and check cashing operation with the upper floors vacant. By 2003, however, the neighbors had rallied when this building and the business went up for sale. But I'm going to stop there and turn things over to Charlie Duff to fill us in on that. Charlie, we are all yours.
Hi, as John says, I'm Charlie Duff. Back in 2003, this was about to become a vacant building. The Rombros wanted to sell out. I don't know if you can see it, but just to the south of it is a parking lot. I don't know if you can see it, but 2 buildings to the north of it is a parking lot. The people who owned those parking lots wanted to have even more parking lots. They wanted to have a parking lot where McGillivray's drugstore was. And the building came up for public auction. The parking lot people had already bought the building that's behind McGillivray's. They'd already bought the building that's just north of it that used to be Gampy's. So they were ready to clear the corner. And it was a chap district, but they were ready just to let a hole open up in the roof and quietly do demo by neglect. And the building came up for public auction. We had about 2 weeks to try to come up with, we had no idea how much money. Mount Vernon neighbor Paul Warren and I went knocking on doors and making calls, and by the end of 2 weeks, 14 Mount Vernon families had put up $400,000 of their own money. And we borrowed some money from the Mercantile Safe Deposit and Trust Company of blessed memory. We went to the auction and we won. It cost $2 million to fix the thing up, and that was a bit of an odyssey. But suffice it to say that when we got through, the National Trust gave us an award. They got HGTV to make a television show about us, and they said they'd never seen anything like this in their lives. They said every now and then you see one rich person who pays money to save a building, and every now and then you see 14 people who chain themselves to a building to save it, but they don't put up any money. This was the first time they'd ever seen people put up their own money, trust each other, go into business together to save a building, but it couldn't have happened without Vicky Schassler. Vicky?
Hi everybody, my name is Vicky Schassler and I'm the owner of Spirits of Mount Vernon. We've been here for about 20 years on the corner of Charles and Reed Street in one of Baltimore's best neighborhoods, which is Mount Vernon. I came up from Washington, D.C., where we were exposed to plenty of good wine shops. And I moved to Baltimore and realized that I'm not seeing a whole lot. And the opportunity came up when the building went up for sale. So I left corporate America and started on a 2-year venture to get a business open, which I had never done before. And now 20 years later, I'm doing just the opposite. I'm departing from Spirits. But it's been an incredible journey in an incredible neighborhood with wonderful neighbors that have become my friends. Yeah, it was a little odd to have, so many people think that there's their business as well. But we all got together and we turned this into something that is very unique, that didn't happen before. And it was a pleasure to have those around me want to be a part of Spirits. And we all grown together, in this venture. So we do political events here. We hold neighborhood association events here. We gather on a daily basis, and we talk about things that are happening in our neighborhood. So it really has been a wonderful journey. It has inspired me and others around me to think of neighborhood associations and gathering places like this as an essential part of what a good neighborhood is all about. Because this neighborhood, although I'm selling things that other places sold as well, they weren't going to allow it to fail because it was a part of their entity as well. And I put the success to everybody involved. And I feel like after 20 years of starting out as a packaged goods store, right, then getting a bar license and having the bar license moved in and then building out the full bar, it's time to pass the torch to those that are ready to take this place to the next level. And it's people that work here that are going to do it, which is really exciting because I was always concerned about how am I going to leave it? Who's going to come in after me? I mean, are they going to take care of it the way that I took care of it and that the neighborhood took care of it? I'm not going to be far away. I'm going to be here for them. They're going to be here for me, and they're going to be here for the community, which is essentially what this business is all about.